Hello,
Hello.
and welcome to an all new edition of What Are Your Thoughts? I'm here with Michael Batnick as always. Michael doesn't know what I'm going to ask him. I don't know what he's going to ask me. Stick around. Let's see what's happening.
Did you get a tanning salon in your house? You look dark.
No, I've been on the bike a lot, and the pool opened, so I'm getting color. What else is there to do? All right, let's get into this. Your post was awesome about what's the catalyst, and like people will be studying some of these stats for years to come. But you make the point that April was the best month for stock market returns in 30 years, and there was absolutely no what you would call catalyst to explain it. So somebody who doesn't live through this and reads about it 20 years from now, they're going to be like, I don't understand. And I just want to read this one part and then have you react to what you yourself said, because I just think it's so amazing. In the 5 weeks from February 20th through March 19th, there were 1.1 million jobless claims, and the stock market fell 29%. In the 5 weeks since, there were 26.5 million jobless claims, and the market rallied 28%. And you make the point that some of the best days during that month happened coinciding with the worst news. For example, yesterday we got the worst GDP number since the Great Financial Crisis. The S&P gained 2.7%. So talk about this. Like what made you think to look back at each date that we rallied and talk about the lack of catalyst?
Okay, so I'm going to quote myself a bunch here. This is kind of weird, but I called this the investor's cognitive asset liability mismatch because we're looking at the news of the day and then we see the price and we're like, what the hell? This doesn't make any sense. Even though we know that stocks are forward looking, it's just weird seeing it on the screen and looking down and seeing that happen. So I made the point that, people joke on Twitter, stocks rise as, of course, stocks aren't rallying because we had terrible numbers. They fell in anticipation of them. So it's like how quickly we forget that stocks fell 35%. So they front ran this.
Yo, that's like the recipe to get 100 likes on a tweet is to be like bad, blank, bad news.
Right.
And the Dow is blank up, whatever, 1%. Makes sense.
Yeah. So in March.
Hashtag logic.
In March.
Woo! Look how smart you are.
And always when stocks are falling or whatever, people always seem to ask, what's the catalyst? I mean, we've been on phone calls where we've heard people ask, what's the catalyst? And the market is not a biotech stock. Like nobody, if you knew the catalyst, that they would be in the price already.
Yeah, no, what's the catalyst that only I can know?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It's hard. It's incongruous because the news sucks so much and it's the best month for stocks in 30 years. And even though there's an explanation for it, which I think you lay out very well, it's still ridiculous. Like no matter what, it's still, I understand the context, etc., but I also get the skepticism that non-market people look at that and say, What planet do I live on?
Oh, I totally get it.
This whole thing is going over there.
I totally get it because I get swept up in it too. How could you not?
Yeah,
right? Even though
crazy.
you know that the market is not responding to today's news, it's still hard to look and feel that disconnect. All right, I want to talk to you about the Berkshire meeting, and you wrote an amazing piece on Buffett. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
What is your take on all the takes?
I only read one other person's take, Sorkin's. I think he has it right. I don't want to say it was depressing, but like I'm a huge Warren Buffett fan. I've read every one of his letters. Like I read the whole book of his letters, and I've read them multiple times, and I've read the biographies, and I've learned so much. And just seeing him as a seller during the nastiest bear market ever. Like we were down 32% in 2 weeks and he wasn't buying, and he already was sitting on $130 billion in cash. It's like, if that's not a moment that you want to really put money to work, then like what has to literally happen? Down 70%. So that was kind of weird. Seeing him puke up the airlines at the bottom. He was the number one shareholder of the four major airlines. and he I don't know if he sold the exact lows, but he definitely sold closer to the low than where he bought. And it just didn't seem like Buffett being Buffett compared to all of these other episodes in the history of Buffettology, where he was greedy when others were fearful. He was doing these incredible deals when people were desperate for money.
Let me ask you a question.
There's two theories. So let me give you two theories of why I think why. And I didn't get into this in the post. First theory is he's spending too much time with fucking Bill Gates, and Bill Gates is not paranoid, but like super vigilant about it's going to get worse and it's going to come back stronger in the fall, and it's not even going to leave during the summer. And look, he's been right about talking about pandemics for years now, but maybe Buffett's listening to him too much and it's affecting his investing. The second theory is just like he's 89 and why bother? Like what's the difference if he bags another elephant? Like whatever. And maybe that's an argument for the people that are going to succeed him to step up faster. But either way, it's depressing if you're a fan. So that's where I am.
Here's a counter take. Do you think that the rebound just happened way too quickly, that he was getting ready to swing and he just lost it? The pitch was too fast?
That's another thing that people are saying, and maybe that's a better theory than the other two I just laid out. And combine that with like the Fed acted so fast, there might not have been an opportunity.
That's what I'm saying.
So Charlie Munger told Jason Zweig prior to this weekend that the phone wasn't really ringing. And that might have to do with the fact that the Treasury and the Fed were acting hand in glove to enact programs like within weeks.
Well, Buffett said the phone started to ring and then the Fed did what they did. And the phone stopped.
The Fed, right. So there was more time to craft these types of like convertibles and preferred stock rescues, and this time there really wasn't. But
I know
we're 2 months into it.
Well, I was about to say I know Buffett does the deals in 2 seconds. I don't really know how true that is, but this happened so quickly, and we can't lose sight of the fact that the market peaked 60 days ago, 70 days ago. Like this barely started. So I think that if the market rolls over again, he'll probably, I have no idea. I would imagine that he would be active, but that doesn't change the fact that it was very surprising to see him dump all of his airlines. Question to you: do you think it's possible that in 3 years from now we say, "Wow, great sale by Buffett," and the airlines are either nationalized or they're down 50% still from here?
Yeah, if the airlines have to now keep 6 months worth of revenue in cash for events like this in the future, then they're not a viable business. Then they probably have to be nationalized. Another super depressing thing to think about.
Yeah.
We know that Buffett, if he does do a like huge dip buy, it's not going to be in oil because oil went to zero, and a lot of the equities were down like 80% from their highs. So if he wasn't buying them, and I know he owns Occidental, but if he wasn't out buying Chevron and stuff at the prices that those stocks were selling for, then he's never going to. So I think we could check off like a big energy producer buy from the list. Buffett, please don't make me look stupid by acquiring Chevron tomorrow. All right. Did you get an antibody test?
Mm-mm.
You didn't?
No.
Did Robin?
No.
Okay. I think they're total bullshit. I got my results back this morning, and I think that everyone should get the test because every one of them isn't bullshit. There are 120 tests currently under, I think the FDA said is like, okay, this is a real test. And all of them work differently. All of them are being collected differently, analyzed differently. There's 120 different companies offering them, and none of them are peer-reviewed. None of them have been around for more than a couple of months. We don't know long-term that they actually really detect anything. We don't even know if the antibodies stick around for long enough for it to be significant, meaning with other coronaviruses, the antibodies will be present in your system for 2 to 3 years. In this case, we don't have 2 to 3 years. We just really don't know. You might need to get one of these every week for it to be valid. So anyway, I tested negative and Sprinkles tested positive. So what the fuck is that? How is it possible? We haven't left each other's side. Like literally, I'll I'll like take a drinking glass from her and take the last sip of it. So I don't get it. So one of us I think is false, but I don't know. That's my take. Are you gonna get one?
I wasn't planning on it.
Why not? Aren't you curious?
No.
Andrew Cuomo said that based on the last widespread test that he saw, up to 12% of people in New York State had coronavirus. Don't you want to know if you wouldn't you feel more emboldened to get out and do stuff if it turns out that you actually had it?
You know, I got to be honest.
Or you
has not even crossed my mind.
You should go get it. You know where they have it? At City MD.
Okay, but aren't there like a bunch of people? Aren't there a lot of people there?
Yeah, and again, we don't even know if it works. But like, aren't you? You're not curious? It took 5. By the way, it took 5 minutes.
Okay.
So you know why you see people lined up on the street? Because they're not letting anyone inside until it's their turn. So I don't know. All right, just a thought. What do you got?
$3 trillion is the latest news that the Treasury is going to be pumping.
For what?
Stimulus,
municipal
relief. I don't know exactly where it's going, but is there no limit? And I'm not saying it's good, bad, or otherwise. I don't. That's not my thing. But is there no limit to how much money we can print?
I don't know, but all right, this is the way to think about it. You're going to spend the money anyway. So how would you rather spend it? Up front, where you can prevent catastrophe, or afterwards in cleanup when the damage is already done? That's your choice.
There's no good choices here. And I'm not necessarily disagreeing with what's happening. I'm just like theoretically, is there no limit to how much money we can print without there being some side effects?
Like theoretically?
Yeah.
Well, the MMT community says there is no limit. I don't know that I agree with that. I don't see how that's possible. However,
how about this?
However, they keep printing more money, and rates on treasuries keep going lower. So, like, where is that threshold? When do we cross it? Where all of a sudden the bond vigilantes start selling treasuries because they don't think we could pay it back? I don't know. 10 trillion, 7 trillion. I don't know.
Here's a potential.
Looks like we want to find out.
Here's a potential risk, and this is a fantastic risk that I think everybody would sign up for, is that the virus just disappears in 2 months. We all go. I know. We all go back to work.
I don't say anything.
We all go back to work, and everybody's got this money, and then the economy overheats, inflation picks up, and obviously, like it's like the best case scenario. That's the best risk possible.
Well, a lot of the programs that have been enacted are temporary in nature, so it's not like that we're doing permanent pumping forever. I'll give you an example. The extra $600 benefit for unemployment goes away in July. Mm-hmm. The municipal liquidity facility, aka MILF, I can't believe they named it that, is targeting maturities on muni bonds of up to 36 months. So it's not active in the back end of the curve. Meaning it's not like states and cities now have this facility and they could just do whatever they want and launch all this spending. It's like a lot of these things are very targeted, and then a lot of them are poised to run off over time. So it's tough to say like all of a sudden we're going to have this huge spike in inflation. Well, I think you're getting supply side shortages in things like meat, but those seem temporary.
We obviously can't know what potential unintended consequences might happen from this, but I think we definitely know what would happen if we didn't do anything. That would be a catastrophe.
Okay,
right?
That's fair. And I think that's the big picture. And then everyone's saying like there's all these mistakes being made. And
well, yeah, obviously it's just people are expecting everybody to be happy, perfect execution. That's never going to happen.
No, of course not. No one's right. No one's going to be perfectly satisfied. But the question is, do you want to keep people in jobs, or do you want to let the chips fall where they may, have people get laid off, and then hope that they'll find new jobs? And I think we've resolved to do the former. And hopefully, in hindsight, that looks like it was the right decision. And regardless of what the cost is, there's a even greater cost, not just in dollars, but in societal, cracks in society. There's an even greater cost in having people lose their job and not get a new one within 3 months, 6 months. Believe me, it's much worse. And they know that empirically. The New York Fed just put something out. It almost looks like they did this research just to back up what they're doing, where they looked at the rise of votes for extremist parties in Germany during the hyperinflationary and unemployment period that I guess followed World War One. And then like in the early 30s, like why were so many people voting for, Hitler and other extremists? And like they were able to control for a lot of things and say, yes, when people are desperate, their politics reflect that.
Mm-hmm.
So the timing of that was interesting. It dropped yesterday like a bomb on social media, but I think we have to pay attention to that stuff. I want to ask you about Michael Jordan. The episode Sunday night, they got into some of the dark stuff where like he was at his absolute peak. McDonald's, Nike, commercials on the air every 5 minutes, Gatorade, be like Mike. And it was almost like he was put on this pedestal. And his comment was, once everyone sees your face everywhere and how successful you've been, it's only a matter of time before they want to tear you down. The media loves to do that. Everyone loves that story arc, the fall from grace. And he's like, it was just my turn.
Mm-hmm.
I think that applies to like investors. And, without mentioning names, you and I saw a reporter do a story about outflows. And they happen to like in the headline mention somebody who's like well-known personally, even though the outflows from his fund were like a tenth the size of the outflows from another fund that you never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, why was his name in the headline? Because everyone knows the guy.
Right.
And it was like it's a way to get people to click.
Right.
I don't know. Do you think that's like, Dalio talks about this? Do you think like, do you think that has a big effect on investors and just like this idea that don't be too successful, everyone's going to hate you? Like, is anyone immune to that?
That's universal. I wrote a piece a few years ago called "But Not Too Much," where you love to watch the underdog succeed, but there's a level where you don't want them to have too much success. Where it's like, all right, you root for Tom Brady. Look at this guy. After a second Super Bowl. And then the third, by the fifth, it's like, all right, enough already with this guy. We get it. So people love to build heroes up only to tear them down. And then they love the redemption story to follow. I mean, that happens in every field all over the world.
Right. So I think people forget that it's like a human being still. And you look at somebody who's been really successful and you say like, well, I could say whatever I want. It doesn't touch them. They hear it.
I mean, obviously this is like such a microcosm, but I blocked a jerk the other day on Twitter, which is fairly rare for me. I tend to mute in a bull market, but I've been blocking in a bear market because people are getting much nastier. And he sent me an email and he's like, "Hey man, I'm sorry. I didn't even think that you would see that." So I think that people behave, especially on Twitter, like they're in a car.
I don't even go. I don't even go on Twitter anymore. I don't know how you do it.
Like they're in a car. You know what I mean? Like there's no ramifications. It's not real because and they would never say that to your face. I was watching last night. Trae Young was on actually on like Twitter Live or whatever it is. Ernie Johnson was talking to Trae Young and he's asking him about how much his family means to him or something like that. And you should have seen the comments. Nobody gives a shit. Better questions. No one cares. And it's like, why are you on this? Why are you wasting your time?
What's wrong with these people?
But nobody's immune from that.
Yeah, I once
Dude, people hate Warren Buffett. Like despise.
Wild.
There is nobody who is universally loved. People hate Jack Bogle. People hate the Dalai Lama. People hate the Pope. Like nobody has 100% approval rating.
Yeah, like Buffett did the giving pledge and Gates too. Combined, these two guys are going to give probably $100 billion or more to charity.
But he hasn't beaten the S&P 500 in 5 years. He's a fraud.
Right. And there's a Gates conspiracy where something to do with Microsoft is trying to get control of Tyson Foods. So Gates is peddling misinformation on like people are nuts.
He actually built the virus in an Excel spreadsheet. I don't know if you knew that.
Right. Anyway, people are insane. Where were we? What do you have?
J. Crew, Chapter 11. So it's not going away. But between J. Crew and the other company that owns Madewell, I believe it was, 483 locations. So obviously this is not the first one. What the hell is going to happen to retail, and what is going to happen to all the mall real estate? What happens?
I think we'll store barrels of oil in the mall. I don't know what else to do with it, because even without the coronavirus, it was very tough to be a mall retailer, and the malls were getting by with things like movie theaters and entertainment, like
The source, for example.
Dave and Buster's arcades, and
So Dave and Buster's is at the source. Used to be a mall. Fortunoff's used to be there.
it's an abandoned mall.
There's
now.
nothing there right now. I think
P.F. Chang's.
Yeah, like P.F. Chang's is there. So that happens all across the country.
Dude, you know what? So Roosevelt Field is an A mall, what's called an A mall. It's owned by Simon Properties. I think Simon Properties has 49 malls across the country, and I think they're all considered A, meaning like an A mall would get like the highest end stores.
I think Simon Properties is the biggest owner of commercial real estate in the country.
Maybe could be true. Ticker is SPG. The stock's been cut in half. So REIT. Anyway, here's what Roosevelt Field did. 5 years ago, they did this massive remodel, and they put in Neiman Marcus, LOL, also bankrupt, and they doubled the size of the food court, or maybe even tripled, and then they built all this experiential stuff onto the outside of the mall, like literally adding additions to the mall that were entertainment. Like they weren't doing that to make room for new stores. They were doing that for more restaurants. And then they went to the existing restaurants to re-up their leases. And they went to Houston's, which everybody loves Houston's. Like the best.
Gone.
Houston's like the best chain restaurant ever,
Yep.
I think. So they went to Houston's, and Houston's like, what are you fucking kidding me? You just added 70 restaurants. Why would we pay you the same amount per square foot when you just brought all this new competition literally on top of us? So they're gone. So there's a limit to how many restaurants and experiential things a mall can add. Just like there's a limit to how many ads Instagram can show you before you're like, all right, bye. I'm done with this now.
And just like there's a limit to how much money the government can print before you're like, I want Bitcoin.
Or maybe not. Or maybe not. All right, that's all I got. You got anything else?
Nope. I miss you.
Okay. I miss you too. Although I saw you 2 days ago. What were you doing? You pushing the stroller?
Going to Bagel Bus. Curbside.
Going to Bagel Boss? All right. All right, good for you. All right, listen, let us know your thoughts on these topics. We want to hear it. Is there a limit to what the Fed can do? I don't know. Let's find out. Let us know below what your thoughts are. Go ahead and give us a like. Subscribe to the channel. We're going to bring 40,000 subscribers, and I want you to be one of them. We will be back very soon.